Welcome to episode 293 of the Center Ring Esports podcast presented by Alt. This is going to be the best episode ever because we have first strike recaps galore, talking NA and EU. Who's the best team? We will discuss. Of course, when is it a major? Don't forget that. Also, CS grab bags. We have Flashpoint Season 2. We have DreamHack Open, NA and EU to get to. And, of course, a plethora of e-news and a lot of yikes of the week. It was a busy week for yikes. So we have tons of yikes to get to as well. But before we do any of that, let me tell you about the show sponsor in Alt Esports. That's ultesports.com, the top apparel brand in esports. Soon, a little teaser, to buy in stores. More information to come on that. But also, more importantly, right now at this very moment, just in time for Christmas, you could win a sweet Xbox Series X. That is the new one for kids at home who might not know. And you can win one by going to Alt Twitter. That's at Ultimate on Twitter, at Ultimate. That's their pin tweet. You go there, you click it, you will be able to find yourself in the race to win an Xbox Series X. Xbox Series X. It's the brand new one. At Ultimate on Twitter. It'll take you a link to their website. You enter it with 3 easy steps. You win some Alt merch. You can win an Xbox. Easy peasy. Perfect time for the holidays. Even if you're like, but Tim, I'm PC Master Race. I don't need no console pleb in my life. Doesn't matter. Because you know what? Everyone knows a console pleb. And you could be the best friend in the world and gift them an Xbox Series X that you won for free at Ultimate on Twitter.
Hello, my name is Clay. I'm the in-game leader of Astralis, and you are listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. This is episode 293, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, December 7th, 2020. The time is 8:58 p.m. And yes, this is going to be the best episode ever. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring and our website, tcr.gg. New blog post up there. I wrote about Big House that was supposed to be this weekend, but unfortunately, thanks to Nintendo's stupidity, to put it frank, it was not. So go ahead and read that blog post up at tcr.gg. Also, our Discord is in the description of our Twitter. And on our website as well. So be a part of that conversation. Always have impromptu game nights as well. So we actually played some Valorant this weekend for the first time in a while. Took a break from WoW. And you would have known that had you been in our Discord. So hit that up at The Center Ring on Twitter. The description has the link to Discord there. My name is Tim. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
Oh, man. Happy Monday. Love Monday shows, you know? Like, I used to hate Monday shows. Kind of like it, because now I've soaked in millions of things in esports just to dish it out to. I'm excited for today, man.
It is. It is. I actually forgot it was Monday because I had today off of work. So until this very moment, was thinking it was Sunday. My brain was telling me it was Sunday. But you are right. It is a Monday. So we had a lot of esports to get to. Yesterday, I went to the ballet. So I was not able to record. So we pushed it back a day. Ballet at the lake, though. It was a COVID-friendly event. They set up a stage. It was right off the lake. Cold as balls. You would have hated it. You would have hated it, Anuj. Because anything under 75 degrees is just freezing for you.
I won't go outside right now.
So I loved it. I loved it. I was in, if my nips can't cut glass, it's too warm. It's too
It got
hot.
pretty cold last night too.
It got,
It's
no,
not
no,
like-
we're off the lake. I mean, it was
Yeah,
off,
like that-
off the lake. Like, I have pictures. It was right there, but it was awesome. So, but that also allowed me to catch up on First Strike and catch up the good matches there. And then all day today, if you're watching on stream, I have yet again redid my office. It's
I'm liking this iteration of
it's
it.
better.
I'm liking where this is going.
I feel like the way my office was set up before, and if you saw on Twitter, it was a war zone. You took one wrong step and you're breaking something. And I decided with a 1-year-old, that's probably just not the best route to go. So I pushed my desks are on one wall and everything else is behind me with a giant open area where he can come in and cause terror and immediately not break something. I can move my arms. I'm not hitting a wall where I was before. I can breathe. And I have bookshelves coming in tomorrow. So, 30 years old, and I finally decided, you know what? Maybe I should have
Bookshelves and curtains. This is the way to go.
Maybe I should have some shelves in my life. Maybe I need to not have everything sit on the floor. Being a responsible adult, buying a shelf and putting it there. So
I got 5 years on you, so this is where you'll be in 5 years.
yeah, right.
This will
Like
be the
that's like
final
people are like,
outcome.
hey, Anu just so much more organized than you. And I'm like, well, yeah, because he's older, of course. Like,
He's had to learn the lessons the hard way.
right? Yeah, I had to learn the lessons the hard way. So I'm getting there. It is getting there. It is getting there. So at least the webcam's in a better spot, and I don't feel like it's like a mile away from me.
Yeah.
That was
No, that's
I didn't like that. So back to a comfort area, and I like it. I like it. All right, let's get into here though. Some yikes of the week, because everyone likes those, and we actually have, like, I felt like we took a week off with the amount of yikes that we have, but they just got some juicy ones.
It was kept giving this week for sure. And I'm sorry you wrote that blog post maybe a day or two ahead of time, because you could have added
Yeah.
probably another chapter or two to that story after this weekend. Do you want me to start off? Or I know
Yeah,
you
why
got
don't
a
we
couple
start-
on here, so maybe.
Why don't you start with that one there?
Okay. Yeah, so this was easy. Like, so just obviously we just had the conversation about Nintendo, canceling Big House and everything that's been going on there. The free Melee protests have, continued on, so much so that it continued on into this weekend in the NA Open for Splatoon. A lot of the teams, about 30% of the teams, actually changed their name to a free Melee or something showing support for Melee, the Smash community in general. So what did Nintendo do, Tim?
They
They went
supported
ahead
it, right?
They supported it, yeah, of course, and that's what you think they would do, just showing their past record with
Mhm,
Smash and
of
Melee,
course.
like just tons of support. So much so that they canceled the live stream for Splatoon, so none of us could tune in and see any of the team names that were out there. And it's disappointing, because you just kind of wonder what they have against it. Like, they have so much control over it, and it would just be better if they did nothing than do anything at all, and all they've done is continued to hurt the scene.
Look, and I wrote this in my blog post, which, by the way, a friendly reminder, you can read at tcr.gg. The link is also on our Twitter at the Center Ring. This is not the first. It's like, it's amazing, because you're absolutely right. Like, it's not that Nintendo has overshown support. Like, they've never gushed over the pro Melee scene or Smash scene to begin with. And it was like, that was always okay. It was always like, you know what? We would love your support. It's almost like the way like Gaben treats CS, right? Like, look, man, we would love to see you show a little bit more love to CS and show up to a major. But you know what? Just leave it alone and everyone's happy, right? Nintendo for the longest time just kind of ignored it, and it was like, okay, that's fine. But now it's like they're actively going out of their way, not only attacking Melee, but any other Nintendo scene or any other thing that they have control over that is supporting Melee. And it's like, the worst thing is, it's like, it's not even like they're saying like, yo, fuck Nintendo, boycott Nintendo, they suck. They're saying support Melee. Like, that's the worst part of it. is it's like they're not even being malicious about it. They're saying, guys, support Melee, and Nintendo is like, how dare you? And then
they're treating it like the free Hong Kong situation with Blizzard.
100%.
Like it's not even close in parallels to like what we're talking about here, and it's just it's really insane. You know, so much so that they even recently banned Ithaca had, you know, very popular streamer, fortunately, you know, took his own life not too long ago. There were some Joy-Cons made in his honor, and those, you know, those Joy-Con proceeds were going to mental health and suicide prevention charities. Only good, right? Like that's where the proceeds were going for this. I think they were just covering the cost of the controller. All the additional money was going to these different charities. Nintendo came out and shut them down and told them they can no longer sell it. And it's like, I mean, again, whether you were a fan of his or not, this was all going to a good cause, you know, and they were doing it in his honor, like somebody that liked his work and followed him closely and wanted to do this for him. You know, there should be no issues there. And it's another way of just infringing again when they could have just stepped aside
Mhm.
and just let it be, you know, like I don't get it. And so with Splatoon, you know, this weekend, bravo to those guys because they also don't get a ton of exposure, right?
No.
And for them to do this and have their broadcast canceled, like that hurts them obviously. And so we would definitely want to give them a shout out. That's awesome what they did. We're glad they showed their support in that way. It's just unfortunate Nintendo took it out on them.
Yeah, it's a shame because Nintendo holds so much of our childhood memories hostage, right? Like, and even now, it's like you see a new Mario game and you get excited. You know, Nintendo makes a lot of fun games that have a lot of fun memories behind it. Mario Kart is literally the only game my wife will play. So it's kind of nice, right? That's our one gaming moment that we've ever shared is through Mario Kart. And at the same time, it's a shame that the company behind it is really, like, the nicest way to put it, dumb. They're just dumb when it comes to how to handle these PR situations. And to them, they've never cared about esports to begin with. So to them, maybe it's like, look, it's such a small market share when it comes to Nintendo. Who cares? They'll tell you that it's because of intellectual property is why they're doing it, and they can't let people rip off their intellectual property. I would tell them this is like the easiest form of just being cool advertising. Like, just be cool about it. And like, again, we've said it on the show, Smash would not be what it is today if it weren't for the esports side of it. It would be a fun game for a week, and then people would stop playing it. So
yeah, people didn't find a way to make that hyper competitive the way they did. That game would, you're right. I mean, it would really wouldn't even be half the popularity, you know? I mean, people that play that game, anybody that I know that plays Smash is not playing it for like casual fun. Like they're getting it to go at it against their friends. Like
yeah,
it's just a competitive game that way. And it's, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because if they would just sit there, shut up, do nothing, put their hands behind their head and just literally watch, right? Like just let the scene
yeah,
grow on its own,
like it
get their
has
own
been.
sponsors, like do their own thing. They would be fine.
It's a shame. It's a shame. And what's sad is this probably won't be the last time. It's not the first time. We've seen them happen, try to do it in Evo back in 2013. So it's not the first time that they've really tried to knock Melee and their esports scene down a peg, and now it's even out spilling over to other games. So it is a shame. One of my yikes comes from, and you know what? I don't really know who to put the blame on this one here, Nuge, but it was announced last week before the First Strike Finals for Brazil that Riot signed a deal with the little company that you might know for exclusive rights with ESPN. So ESPN in Brazil had exclusive broadcasting rights for First Strike.
Which, talk about like odd timing. Like ESPN just released all their coverage team, who by the way were amazing at League of Legends, right? Like that
Yeah.
was their strong suit for what Jacob Wolf and the esports writer and those guys, like that's their bread and butter is League of Legends. And then ESPN comes out and signs an exclusive deal. I know it's, again, it's Brazil, so maybe that's
I do
there's
think it's
separation
different
there.
Like if you go to ESPN's Brazil's website, they're still covering esports. So clearly, like, maybe it's just the branding that's the same, but completely different budget and parent company behind it. And I'm sure that's what it is. but it's just a
Well,
little
it's just
awkward.
weird because we sit here. It's like we say, "Oh, ESPN doesn't care about esports." It's like maybe they just don't care about it in NA. Like maybe
Right.
this audience isn't where it needs.
Like
They
someone there
feel
is
it is.
signing the checks. I don't know
Yeah,
who, but someone is signing the checks there.
it's really just it's odd. That's the best way to put it. It seems like a weird time deal.
And my other yikes comes from Optic, the brand new official, once again, Hex's Optic. So did you see this on Twitter where and they do this all the time. This is like a shtick Hex does where they come out with like a founder's hoodie. They did it with Chicago. Now they're doing it with Chicago Optic again. Or is it Chicago Optic? Optic Chicago? What did they decide to go with?
Optic Huntsman, Chicago.
Anyway, so they did like a founder's hoodie, which is pretty much your way of blindly buying a hoodie that you haven't seen. I think it was like $90. And they're like, look, you might be not buying you might think you're buying a $90 mystery hoodie that you've never seen before, but you are buying a founder's edition product. This will get you into the exclusive clubs nowhere. And at the dinner table, no one will talk about it. But you will have a founder's hoodie. So, of course, everyone in the Green Wall Army goes and buys it. Well, they go to unpack it, Anuj. And I'll have to tweet this out after the show so people know what we're talking about. It is stitch for stitch the same exact hoodie Optic released with Champion like a couple years ago, apparently. Like, same gray, same everything. I mean, the only thing they did was take the little Champion logo off of the arm and slapped on a different, looked like numbers. I don't know if it was like the addition of the type of hoodie you got. I don't know. But that's it. The rest of the hoodie looks exactly the same to the point where like
the quality, Tim.
and that's yeah. So the fan was like, "Yo, Hex, I love you, dude. I have so much of your merch, but this is a ripoff. Like, I already own this hoodie from a couple years ago. Now I bought this $90 hoodie, and it's the same. It's like you guys just cleaned out inventory that you had left over, and what gives?" And Hex comes back with his response. No. You don't understand. These are completely different hoodies. The quality is completely different. But I'll
like
give you
Egyptian stitch, Egyptian cotton there.
Yeah, whatever, bro. Yeah, but then he still offered a refund, which tells you like, no, they clearly can't be that different if you're offering a refund. If they were clearly that different, you would hold your ground and be like, you don't understand. We had to get that spider silk or whatever it is in China that like costs thousands of dollars to produce. I love it.
It was an easy target. This was a late entry into like possibly the Timmies even.
Yeah, right. You can't be as successful as Hex is in esports without being able to keep a straight face while lying like that. Because there is no way Hex can look himself in the mirror and look at both of these hoodies and say, these are completely different. 100% different hoodies.
I will say, I bet you they forgot about that other hoodie when they made this one. Like, I don't think they intentionally made the exact same hoodie. I just think that they forgot about that hoodie because it was a handful of years ago. They've made thousands of pieces of merch since then, and they probably just didn't realize it. Now, it sucks because it is the exact same hoodie. So at the end of the day, you literally sold the exact same hoodie with, sure, maybe it is better quality and that's fine, but you shouldn't sell that as a blind purchase then.
I will also say this too. For a $90 hoodie, I would still be upset. Even if it wasn't an exact copy of a hoodie from a couple years ago. I mean, it is straight up a gray hoodie with a gray Optic logo on it. You could take that to your local Stitch store and they could do that for you.
Surprised they don't have a hoodie with him like doing his graffiti stuff, and like they could do some cool stuff with like make it exclusive that way. I don't know, but yeah, this seems a little
bit more thought. I mean, this truly does feel like they were just cleaning inventory out of old gray hoodies and said, all right, well, let's ship this one off to him, I guess. So
It made the 100 Thieves numbers collection look pretty good.
yeah, no, you're definitely right. Definitely right. So a lot of people were asking for refunds on that. Probably set the record for most refunds Optic ever had to do on a product. So feels bad, man. But Hex, I guess you're the real winner here. All right, so there it is. There's your Yikes of the Week. Let us know if we missed any. If you have some good Yikes of the Week for next week, hit us up in Discord or Twitter, and we would love to read them on the show. Let's get into CS first. You want to knock out some CS stuff first?
Kind of itching. Okay, let's go CS.
I know.
CS.
That I
Well,
want to
let's get
talk
CS
First
going.
Strike, but let's
Yeah.
get out some CS of the
There's
system.
a lot here for CS too. It's not like a quick run through segment. You know, we got a lot we're about to dive into for
'cause
Counter Strike.
we had a handful of tournaments wrap up over the weekend with DreamHack Masters, and of course with every now thing it's NAEU. We had Flashpoint Season 2 finish up, and then just some other news sprinkled in here. So I guess where do you want to start? Do you want to start with?
Let's go with the 2 tournaments that wrapped
Okay.
up.
All right, so let's start with Flashpoint, just because I feel like there's less to say there.
The Juggernaut. Yeah, with Flashpoint, it this is season 2 now for us.
Season 2.
We have a little better idea, of the teams that are involved, because I feel like some of these teams last year were still creating an identity, right? So I feel like this is the first full year where we've had a little bit more clarity on the teams that are involved. And it doesn't look like as bad anymore in this sense, right? With OG stepping up recently, Fnatic, Big, that's, and obviously Cloud9's reemergence has made this a lot more interesting, just to be frank. But we did get wrapped up here. We did have VP taking the top spot. I could tell you, if I asked 100 people, that was probably not going to be the guess at the beginning of the season. In fact, I remember at the beginning of the season, we discussed VP and we talked about it. Hey, it's good from a brand standpoint to add VP into Flashpoint. And that's how we looked at that deal, right? It was like, oh, yeah, it's good from a brand name standpoint. Like, you get VP added to the list. Like, sure, like, not a very competitive team, but why not? As Virtus Pro, the name means a lot. It's good to have them out on the big stage in some form or another. And then here they go, winning the whole thing.
I won't lie to you. It's not like I was even glued to the match, because ahead of time I was like, VP OG, or like I had some other matches going on at the same time. Like, it was definitely the last on my list to watch. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is like the first time that I've probably watched VP in years. So I don't know if this is like, from social media, from what Thorin tweets out, you would think this is like the next Astralis. Because he loves any team in Flashpoint. I've learned that. That's what I've learned. That's my takeaway from Flashpoint Season 2, is that it doesn't matter what team it is. If you're in Flashpoint, you're instantly in Thorin's like top 15. Like
automatically ranked
like
higher.
He was like, oh, for all the morons out there who doubted VP, they've been putting in the work and blah blah blah. They're the next rising up and coming. I'm like, bro, literally no one has said that about them. No one.
No, maybe this is a coming out party at this point,
like
right?
I said, maybe this is where it comes out.
Just said it, but if you've been hyping him up for like the last 2 months, it's like it'd be hard to believe, right? But results are everything in Counter-Strike, in any game. And at the end of the day, they did come out victorious, and they didn't have an easy run, right? Like, they had to be Fnatic in the semis to make it through. I mean, who else did they obviously they played Big just a couple of days ago, and Big is a team that, regardless of what you think, has played really well in the online era of Counter-Strike. And then now OG, who has looked better as of late, in a team that, we hope to see more from. So they didn't have the easiest run, and maybe this is some way of them, breaking through and giving them the validation that they need for themselves to keep going. We were really close to what I think more people would have tuned in, I think, had we had the Fnatic MIBR matchup that we were really close to having, right? The Brazilians versus the Swedes, and that's an old rivalry, regardless if the teams are drastically different on one side, but still that would have been nice little history kind of remade in the finals. But this was good for what it was, right? Like
Yeah.
the matchup was pretty good. I love to see VP on the big stage, and just in the sense like I would love to see that brand be relevant again. Because Counter Strike to me was in its golden era during that time. As somebody that's kind of watched not only CS:GO but even before, we're just going to talk about CS:GO. That felt like the golden era of Counter Strike, where we had the Swedish teams dominating, and we had Virtus Pro always making like their random runs, and the rise of like SK or Luminosity at the time. Like that was a really good time for Counter Strike, and VP was a huge part of that. So if we could see them back, great. I would love to have them back in the top 10 and being competitive. And only time will tell, but this is a great start.
And then the other big tournament going on for CS this week was DreamHack, the DreamHack Masters Winter, both NA and EU. I actually want to talk NA first here, if you would indulge me, because
of course, yeah, it makes complete sense.
Look, this was a joke of an event. We made fun of it going into it, and I'm going to make fun of it afterwards. It's not a good showing. The fact that this was like the best that they could get for NA is really bad. And I know some NA teams are traveling and some are overseas and whatever. I get that. But Counter-Strike, from what I understand, is like a very popular game. Number 2, in fact, one would say. Number 1 for FPS, right? We see the numbers on Steam. It's a very popular game. So the fact that of the 8 teams that are there, roughly give or take 5, depending on your definition, aren't even with an org. Because you have Chaos, who this was their last event, I believe. Mythic, which no knock on them. They're a stream team. I would not call them a competitive org by any nature. That's not their goal.
If you're asking them to pick streaming or playing Counter-Strike, they're going streaming.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. 100%. New England Whalers, which I believe is folding their roster. Rugrats, and then Rebirth. Like all teams that are like not full functioning orgs or dropping their roster. So that's not a good look when 5 out of the 8 teams, excuse me, are seeing their way out of CS. So I just wanted to point that out there. But one of those teams, like I mentioned, Chaos, winning it all. Their last hoorah, their swan song in Counter-Strike. Ended up beating Team 1 in the finals 3-2. And now the question is, where are these guys going to find a home? A lot of dust is getting kicked up on Twitter, a lot, especially from Launders, friend of the show, saying how, if he had the money with his, because he's got that company, that org Boxer. I know they've had a Smash player and everything signed with them. He said, look, give me the money. If an investor gives me the money, I will sign these guys. We will create a CS team, and we will be a top NA talent. Because they have, realistically, they are, I would consider at this point, and it's just a shame that they have to drop the roster due to COVID issues, because Steel worked so hard to get them to where they are, and the fact that they were able to keep the momentum after Steel left for Valorant, because we even talked about on the show, like, oh, okay, you're losing Steel. You're losing one of your big pieces that got you to the top 20. Will you be able to sustain it? They have. The popularity is there as far as the NA side goes. But then on the flip side, you do have teams, and Launders called them out, so I'm going to do it as well. But, you have teams like Envy that has underperformed for a long time. And you have a handful of other NA teams or NA orgs that have just kind of underperformed. So do you see this roster getting picked up?
I mean, almost like a pity pickup, because obviously nobody's willingly wanting to do it, right? Like, yeah. I mean, we mentioned Envy. Yeah, Envy's had like a really tough go. Like Chaos has gotten way better results compared to Envy since Envy's like reemergence into Counter-Strike. Like they've never looked this good, and we know those guys are getting really big salaries, and that that's great for them, and they have what we consider to be good players, but the wins aren't there, right? And then you look at a team like Chaos just begging for a shot somewhere, and they're a top 5 NA team, like for a while now, right? We're not talking about, oh well, Chaos has done good just for the last few events. Like, no, they've really been like a top 5 NA team. I mean, almost kind of feels like the better part of 6 months we've continued to
Right.
see them up there, right? You have EG, Liquid, Furia, and they're kind of right there. At that point, like, Complexity is not NA anymore. Cloud9 is not NA. Like, there's just not a lot out there. I do think there'll be some sort of. I mean, God, I hope, I should say, that there's some sort of opportunity for these guys to continue to play Counter-Strike. A lot of them have come out publicly and already said they're open to Valorant offers. And trust me, it's not going to be long before they
Of
get an
course they
offer.
are.
Right, well, like, in the sense of how long do you think they're going to have to wait to get an offer? If you are an NA org or any org looking to jump into a game, Counter-Strike or Valorant right now, without a doubt, you're going into Valorant.
So it's
without
funny.
a doubt. Like,
It's funny because we're just great minds think alike. Because my next point was going to be, and I shit you not, this is exactly what I was going to say, is if I was a team, if I was an org looking to pick up a roster, it's not going to be for Counter-Strike. It's going to be for Valorant, and I would probably sign them under a Valorant roster and take the risk that, your talents will most likely carry over, as we've seen.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what I do. And not only because, Valorant is new and it's more popular. No. It's because look at the current state that we're in with COVID. NACS is dead in COVID times. Dead. Now it will come back and everything once tournaments can come back here, and we'll see.
Will it come back?
I mean, not like what it once was. The momentum got COVID.
NACS is like very much on life support, and I don't think COVID is the only thing holding NACS back.
Let me say it this way: you could at least get some money back after COVID when your teams can start going to local events again, right? Or at least competing in tournaments worthwhile.
It will be more interesting for NA fans when COVID is gone,
Right.
because the good NA teams will be in the big tournaments, but that doesn't mean that the NA scene, I don't think the NA scene is all of a sudden going to have an uptick in rosters come
but like
about
Chaos,
because
I think
COVID
could
is
get
gone.
invited to qualifiers for big tournaments, right? After
Yeah.
COVID. The issue is where we're at right now. There is no big tournament for NA. This was your big tournament, right? For NA, and these teams are a joke. So I think like if you were an org, you would really have to ignore your accountants if you're going to sign these guys for a CS squad. You would really have to ignore your advisors and being like, nope, signing, like you said, like a feel-good signing. That's the only reason you're signing Chaos at this point for CS. I would definitely, though, look into signing them under a Valorant roster and then going from there. That's
like,
what
I know
would
that's
do.
going to break a lot of people's heart to hear that, right? Like, but I agree.
Of course.
I would sign them under.
It breaks my heart, Anuj. It breaks my heart.
Yeah, like, again, I feel like with the way player salaries were going, it was always going to be really hard. It was going to be hard to keep up, right? Like, it's just the way it is. It was going to be really hard to keep up. And forgive me if you can hear Hudson in the background here.
Gamer dad, it's all right.
Yeah, and so it's
people know we're old.
I'm just a little concerned that it's not going to get any better. Like, I really feel like, I'm not saying Valorant's a better game. I just don't know if it's going to get any better for NACS anytime soon. Like, there's now become like this major gap between the two, right? It's not even like a small gap between NA and EU, like it has been in past years, right? Like, we always felt like we were bridging that gap. It's so wide now. It's like it's unrecognizable compared to where we were, and I don't know how we got there so quick. Valorant's obviously part of that, but I just don't see this trend ending when LAN is back. I think we'll still have a handful of competitive teams in NA, but I don't know where the growth is going to come from.
Years down the road, right? When you have these kids who stuck with NA, CS and didn't make the switch over to Valorant, and when you have orgs deciding, okay, we want to stay in CS and not go to Valorant, I think that's when you're going to see it. I don't think it's going to be a quick turnaround time, though. Like when I say post-COVID CS, you're going to see NA come back a little bit. It's not going to be like an instant one, right? It's going to take that one. You know what we need? We need another Stewie, right? That's what NACS needs. We need to show that we can develop young talent again and not just buy our way into the scene anymore. You have to have that. You got to have that Stewie. You got to have that young talent that you can say, hey, we, NA side of CS, have developed this talent. And yes, it is possible to do that.
Well, look at the other issue here with NACS. It's not like we don't have teams invested into Counter-Strike. They've just moved away from NA Counter-Strike, right? So we've lost Complexity as an NA org. We've lost Cloud9 as an NA org. There's probably a couple others that I'm kind of not recalling that were the big orgs in NA, right? Like they're no longer NA, but they're still in CS. So I just don't see, like, it's going to have to be a new investor, like somebody that just hasn't been involved really, because it's not like we're missing like a Fnatic in Valorant, right? Like everyone's like, oh, Fnatic's got to pick up a team. Fnatic's got to pick up a team. Name me a big like NA org that's sitting out there that doesn't have, like, Envy is half EU, you know? I think 3/4, you know, of their team is EU. So like I just don't know what teams are out there that are looking for an active roster right now.
Well, and the difficulty too with that is if there is a top NA talent that ever hits free agency, you're not only competing with other NA orgs trying to sign a CS guy, you're dealing with the situation like Nitro. Nitro announces his retirement from CS and leaving Liquid and then immediately moves over to Valorant. Like it wasn't like just some, hey guys, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to take a break and I'm going to, you know, play some games and just enjoy life. Like Skadoodle, for example, right? Skadoodle retired and then all of a sudden got that itch to compete again and then went to Valorant. Nitro, like, that was like...
Nitro was like Brett Favre, though. He like retired and like was immediately like, oh, you know what? I'm actually not done. 100 Thieves willing to pay me a lot.
Nitro used the same pen that he used to sign his retirement to sign his Valorant contract. Like that's how fast that turnaround
the ink was still wet. He copied the signatures. Yeah, you know, like it was like that.
That's part of the issue is if you're an NACS org, you are not only competing with other orgs on your side, but you're also competing with Valorant for NA at the moment. So that to me, I think is the bigger fear as far as like getting into CS for NA. But you know what? Shout out to Chaos. This is not to rain on their parade of winning their last event for CS for now. And hopefully you see these guys stay with Counter-Strike. That's obviously ideal. But if not, then I think they'll also be successful.
One way or another, you'll see them on streams.
Of course. I mean, look,
on a television near you.
It is a good enough squad. Like there's no reason that they shouldn't get picked up by an org, whether it be for Valorant or CS.
Yeah, like they'll be playing a tier 1 esport here in the next month.
Yeah, one way or the other. Now, on the flip side, a CS scene that has nothing to worry about, Europe. So we had the DreamHack Masters Europe wrap up, and as we said last episode, or at least I think it was last episode, 'tis the season of mouse sports, Anuj. 'Tis the season of mouse sports. See, people don't give us enough credit. I know we don't have like 100,000 followers on Twitter, so people like think we don't know what we're talking about. I mean, what did we say? We said, yeah, I mean, you know, mouse sports beat Cloud9, but hey, don't be too upset because for whatever reason, mouse sports in December is just unreal. It was Romo in December quality.
It's like they're all on like expiring contracts all of a sudden.
Right. Yeah, it's like they
Like that's
all
how the whole
know
squad plays.
they all know that in the off season or in the downtime, the owners are like looking for other players. So they're like, guys, we got to perform well, because they ended up, now they didn't win. They got second place against Astralis, which again, people love to count out Astralis nowadays. I don't buy it. Astralis, look, other teams don't win tournaments. Astralis loses tournaments. That's still the way it is for me. I don't care if they're switching out players for a 6 or 7 man roster. I don't care if they're switching up their IGLs, if they're taking player breaks for mental issues. I don't care. Astralis is still the best team in the world.
Without a doubt. I mean, they took a team that was probably one of the hottest teams right now in Furia and dismantled them in the semifinals. And again, Furia was coming off wins off of like G2, Complexity, drawing a blank on who else they beat leading up to this, but those were two really difficult teams to go through, and Furia was doing it with relative ease. You know, the 2-0 Complexity, 2-1 against G2, and then ran into the stone wall of Astralis. And it, you know, Astralis, like I said, kind of embarrassed them and was able to take their aggression and flip it against them. And then here in the finals against Mouse, again, just another great performance. It wasn't as easy and clear cut as like the scoreline would show in a 3-1 set, you know, stance. One of the games went to overtime. One of them was a 16-13 win for Astralis, and so they won the clutch rounds, the ones that mattered there. But you know, for Mouse, no disappointment. It is a great finish. Astralis is, you know, I don't want to say Astralis is like 100% back, but they don't feel like they're that far from like consistently being number one again either, right? And this was a lineup that played with 6 players in the finals, right? Bubsky stepped in for a game and you know, again did well, and that's just a well-oiled machine, and it's a team you'll never be able to count out until Device retires. Like I don't know what else Device has to prove that he is one of the best of all time. I believe he top fragged, at least he had the best rating on every map in the finals for them. All 4 maps played, he was number 1 rated player for their team, and it's just he's so consistent and lethal. And like Mouse was great, Astralis was better, and I don't think that's a big shock to anybody. But I'm sad we don't have a major to kind of give us that year end kind of like, okay, who was it this year? Did Astralis do it again? Because I really feel like they would have added another star to their jersey.
Yeah. I guess we can bring it up just for the sake of it. But you're right, because we are not going to have a major this year, and at least for the next 6 months, right? Because Valve did announce that they're canceling the spring major for next year. So we've already canceled that. So the next chance is probably November, October of next year, as normally if they did 2 majors in 1 year is when we would see it. So who knows, right? Even if they have COVID vaccines by then, who knows what the world travel situation is going to be like. But you're right. Like, we're still looking for the foreseeable future, this debate of who's the best team in Counter-Strike. And I guess until you get that major, or until you get some of these teams just in the same, you know, under the same roof, right? Regardless of if it's a major, you at least want to see LANs back, because then you can at least say, okay,
your Colognes, Katowices,
right.
and things
it's like, all right, we at least have it on LAN. We can't say, oh, it's connection or whatever. We can't say, well, it's not in a stadium, things like that. You know, MIBR can't cheat, things like that. It would be nice to see that back, because I know some people think like, oh, Vitality is number 1. I think we're right back to where we were a couple, you know, earlier in the year, where it's like Astralis, Vitality. You'll see them in the finals constantly. I still give the nod to Astralis just because they haven't really proven otherwise. But you know, I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, I mean, somebody just got to knock them off consistently, and I don't think anybody's able to do that. So until then, Astralis is going to be number 1 in most people's minds. Whether they're ranked that way or not, it's a different story because of how the
Right.
point system works. But like in general, you're probably taking them on any given Sunday.
Yeah. Some other CS quick hits to get to. Broken Fang, the new operation, premiered this week. I haven't even tried it.
I did spend a little bit in it to mess around. I bought the operation to just run around on the new map because they did release. So this is kind of big. They released an original map. The last original map that they released was Overpass, which you now obviously see in the active duty map pool. This is now a diffusal map as well. Obviously, it's called Ancient. Um, I'll tell you, in my mind, that map has some work to do. Very unusual bomb site layouts for both of them. One of them is completely open and really no cover whatsoever, like just a very weird layout. Even B side has some unusual, like really narrow, tight hallways, things that are unusual and uncomfortable for Counter Strike players. So there's some flaws in it, but I do love the look of the map. It looks very much like Aztec for those of you old Counter Strike players. Um, Cool like ambiance and like the sound effects that they have as you're running through are very like nice and the level of detail on the map is great. So I think they have a good base. Just like Overpass, it may take a little bit of work before that's a fun playable map in my opinion. But I'll play around in it. I'll play a game or two in it and see how that feels. But I have a feeling it's going to be a little rough on CT for either bomb site.
I should probably try it out. I don't know. It just like it was all cool, but just still not enough, right? Like we saw that they added if you have the pass, you can do the new matchmaking that allows you to pick and ban maps, which I guess that's cool. I think that's probably something again that you should just have in the game in general. Maybe it is after this pack, you don't know, but whatever.
They should have a different ranking and made that the rank reset. Right?
Yeah.
Like that should have been its own ranking system. And then maybe that would have been a cool feature to add. And then the way it is right now, if you haven't played in a while and you're going back, well, guess what? Like you're still gonna play off of your whatever your new rank is, which will be very low and the game won't be as enjoyable as it
Yeah.
you might remember.
Felt like a good opportunity to reset rank, right? With like having a new type of style for matchmaking. Felt like the opportunity was there and they missed it.
Yeah, an opportunity to add more maps. Like we didn't hear about Cache, right? Like it's not like Cache got thrown into the map pool and they were swapping something out. Like we're kind of still waiting for that change. They also still have refused to work with all these map makers that own all these badass maps. And I was hoping because of Valorant's success that this next update would have been a little bit more, right? Like the single player stuff is cool. It is what it is, right? But it's like a one-time playthrough for most people, if even that. People care about the maps. Like that's what people care about. And it would have been nice to see a little bit more of a freshen up there. And if they had reached out to any one of these map makers, I'm sure they would be willing to sell them their map. Like I really believe that. They've all said that they just haven't been reached out to. And I thought this would have been a cool opportunity for it. But hey, at least it's an original map. We'll see how it goes. I would expect to see it in the map pool at some point. It just may be a while from now.
Some other quick things here. We already mentioned Valve is canceling the major for the, I should say the spring major, right? There's still maybe something in the fall in the works, but I guess obviously like everything else, you wait and see with COVID. Speaking of COVID, we forgot to mention that Flashpoint actually announced that some of their staff members got COVID. Remember back in April when COVID was kind of first happening, they were like the last Custer's last stand of no, we're gonna have our staff like, and they did it again, right? A lot of these tournaments still have their staffs doing first strike, right? It's all either at home studios or things like that. So as I almost choke on water, hopefully everything's okay there though. Last thing you want to see is people getting sick. MIBR has been fined for stream sniping. This was actually part of the findings for the E6.
Absolutely shocking. This wasn't even from the E6 stuff. This was just like This was a fine levied down by Flashpoint themselves because they had a TV on and it was caught in the background and visible to the players. And so, look, again, everybody does it, so I'm not going to only hate on them,
Right.
but
But
they
they're
did
also the
they
only
did take
ones
some
like
punishment for it, unlike everybody else.
MIBR has been busted, like they said, like on stream. They have seen the coach watching the match on Twitch. Like they see the coach sitting, and like these teams know when the cameras are set up, right? Like, bro, just don't set up your set where the camera can see you watching the
You can
stream.
literally just be a foot off screen and you're fine.
Just turn the monitor. You would have been fine. Buy one of those things where it's like if you're looking at an angle, it covers up the monitor, you know? Would have been easy. But MIBR, yeah, right, did get fined by Flashpoint. And I think that pretty much catches you up. Oh, one last thing here. Speaking of MIBR, former MIBR player Fallen is returning to CS after his little break to replace Yell in Boom.
Yeah, that's I mean, interesting. I thought he might go international, honestly, but I'm sure now Boom finds a way to get another, maybe one of the core from MIBR that they had at one point, but it'll be interesting to see. It's good to see him back regardless.
I'm a little surprised that he's joining a roster. I just always, for whatever reason, assumed he would just kind of do his own thing. Like, he just always seems to be that kind of guy that wanted that Astralis lifestyle, right? Where it's like starting the org and just being on that org. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see what Fallen we're getting. Are we getting old school Fallen of 2015, MLG Major Fallen? Or are we getting, you know, Fallen as of late, which is nothing to write home about? But we'll see. Well, good luck. Good luck to him at Boom. All right, so let's get over into some Valorant talk, though, because we did have First Strike, and honestly, that's what everyone cares about. So with First Strike, we have EU and NA. Let's start with some EU. Actually, real quick, before we get into these, before we get to the EU and NA, let's give some GGs over to the other side of First Strike that doesn't get a whole lot of attention. And that's, of course, talking of like the Korean side and things like that. Anuj, I know you actually, and I watched a little bit, but I know you watched more of the Korean First Strike.
Yeah, I picked up two games I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch the Vision Strikers versus Cloud9. Happened to be up at the time that kicked off, and then obviously the finals, Vision Strikers versus TNL. Dude, Vision Strikers, freaking elite team. They are very, very good. It was very impressive to watch, and hyper aggressive, but knew how to play passive when needed. They just looked really good. I hadn't had a chance to watch any Korean Valorant, and it came out thoroughly impressed with them. And even Cloud9 and TNL, like they looked pretty good. But Vision Strikers is a team I'm sitting here like, oh, I can't wait for them to get a chance to compete against EU and NA. Like I would, they're going to hold their own for sure. And then in the Japanese side, Absolute Jupiter, again, kind of did what they've been doing, and that is continue winning. Impressive for them. That's another team that will be playing this at an international level very soon. Like when it's allowed, these teams will be there. And so a good showing. GG's to them, as you said. And yeah, I came away super impressed with the level of Valorant that they're playing.
I don't know the team, but a listener put it up in the big dick play category of on our Discord. On the Oceanic side of it, the nastiest ace, pistol ace I've ever seen. Anuj, you got to go on the Discord and look at it. I know you don't get on Discord. You got to check it out. It's one of those where it's like you kind of have to almost watch it frame by frame to see how the hell he even
like how
flipped.
did he pull this off?
Like it was unreal. So you're absolutely right. Like I am curious to see how this works when obviously we get all these teams under one roof, because much like Renegades looks like in CS when they play Oceanic tournaments, they look like they're god tier, right? I think actually I saw Renegades tweet out that they've won like 10 tournaments in a row. So they're feeling it right now in CS, but on the Oceanic tournaments, right? So I'm always curious to see when we get under one roof, truly, how do these teams lineup. Like you can all like it's easy to look like you're dominating in Oceanic or maybe even Korea, even though that one probably holds a little bit more clout. But I can't.
You can tell when somebody can aim, though, you know, and just
Yeah.
to see the precision that these guys played with, it's like no doubt in my mind that they'll keep up with the rest of the crew.
What I always try to look for too is the speed that they're playing in, right? Like how fast are you able to pull off your executions and your rotations? And because to me that is where like you'll truly see anyone can aim, right? We've seen it, right? Even when you and I decide to play a game and kind of practice and actually work on our aiming, you can kind of get that muscle memory down. It is, believe it or not, like game sense is one where you actually have to learn, right? We have played with a lot of people that can aim but have zero game sense. You know, so
no, for
that's
sure.
and that's where you see like when you're watching the Korean side and everything, you're like, okay, I see it. I can see the strats they're pulling off and the speed and the accuracy of pulling them off. I agree. I have no doubt that they'll be able to transition into it. And you know,
You
it's
always kind of wonder about those regions, right? Because we just don't see a lot of FPS
yeah.
like teams come out of there. So that's the question when it comes to, you know, Tim's talking about game senses. We just don't have a lot of exposure to those markets when it comes to FPS titles. But
And their styles are
man,
always so unique, much like with NA and EU for styles of games. Like NA has kind of always been that cowboy style of just ball to the wall. Like we kind of rely more on aiming than our game sense, and EU is very methodical of, you know, look at Astralis, right? And how like they've kind of changed the way the world uses their utility and think about it. It is interesting to see when we all get together what's going to happen. So let's talk about some of these regions though. Let's talk EU first. Of course, going into it, we were like, look, this is pretty much G2 and G2 only. Say what you want about some of these other teams. Wah, wah, because every big team in Europe pretty much ended up not making the finals or either way failing one way or the other. G2, Liquid, Fun Plus Phoenix all failed to make the finals. Liquid getting eliminated early, I think first round against
yeah, to the
Heretics.
eventual winners, like
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
Heretics had a
Make it.
crazy run, right? They had to play Liquid early on. We didn't give them a chance there. Then there was no chance, I thought, against G2, and they pulled off the miracle 2-1 victory there. But you're right, none of the big teams that we anticipated to at least be competing at the end even made it to the finals, right? Like obviously Liquid, G2 getting bounced as we just mentioned, you know, Fun Plus not making it out of the semis. And um my question is this good or bad, right? Because the talk has been G2 is so dominant. Do they even have another good team in that scene? Like it's been them and that's really it. Well, okay. Now we have a new team win, but it's not one of the other big boys that we were anticipating. So in your mind, is this a good thing or a bad thing on how this panned out for you?
I would say overall a good thing. More teams winning, I feel like is a good thing because it helps kind of push that narrative of anyone can win, but for the good reasons, right? Because if you go and watch these matches, I mean, everyone played lights out. I mean, hell, even guys like Orglis, who lost 2-0 to G2 in the quarterfinals, that's Happy's team, former Prodigy? Is that what they were before they changed to Orglis, I think?
Yeah, former Prodigy.
Yeah, former Prodigy. I mean, they played lights out. I mean, even on their map on Split with G2, they almost came back on that one. Unbelievable. If you haven't watched that match, go back and watch at least that map of G2 versus Orglis Split. G2 ended up winning 13-11 after the first half being up 11-2. They won 13-11.
But yeah, it was like crazy.
After being up 11-2, they almost blew that lead, which I guess is, you know, it's a love and hate relationship with that when it comes to Split. But I would say overall, I mean, it's a good thing that other teams are kind of catching up to G2 on the EU side.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was good to see. I'm a little sad on how it turned out, honestly, because I did want to see, G2 get dethroned in the finals,
Right.
ideally. It did make
Thankfully,
for a little bit of
I will say
a
this. Thankfully,
lackluster finals in that sense, but
the team that beat them, that knocked them out, I think it was also good that they were the ones who won. Like, it would have
yeah.
been worse had G2 got knocked out and then Summon FC knocked Heretics out like 3-0. Like, that would have been
and
bad.
it's like G2's like best buddy on Heretics, right? With Lowell being on that team. And again, you've kind of just seen Counter-Strike's presence all throughout Valorant this weekend, right? Looking at the NA teams that were also in the finals, I think like 9 out of the 10 players competed at high level Counter-Strike, which is insane. And just even here, we saw it with Heretics as well. So it was a good showing by the teams that we didn't anticipate like pulling through. Like it was really impressive to see Heretics run. And like I said, I'm glad they won it, because had they lost in the finals after beating Liquid in G2, it would have just been forgotten. Like it all would have been forgotten. At least this makes it a pretty historic run for the short history so far in Valorant.
So you bring up, we saw a lot of CS, former CS players this weekend. Is this a safe place to where I can say an opinion that might be an unpopular opinion?
Always.
I don't know if I like Sean Garris casting.
Really? Wow. I
told you it's an unpopular opinion.
I like him. He's so good.
I love Sean Garris. Love him. I would leave my wife for him. Fun fact, first DreamHack, they asked for special instructions. I asked for a frame picture of Sean Garris in my hotel room. They didn't do
it. Did they do it?
No, they didn't. But it's my bit. Every time we go to DreamHack, I always ask for it. No one's ever done it yet. But one day I'll get it. He gets too excited over the CS players. Like, and I get it. They're all buddies, and that's probably why. But it's just kind of like, all right, bro, let's take a breath, keep your composure, cast the game.
Yeah, I honestly really enjoy him. I really enjoy him out there. So
I knew it was going to be an unpopular opinion.
It's probably good for the podcast that one of us steps up in his defense in this situation, right?
Because I feel like he was loved. I like him. I think
he's loved by everybody, Tim.
I know.
Like everybody liked his casting this weekend.
It was during one of the matches, and I was like, buddy, I'm like, God.
You're right. That is an unpopular opinion. You can get away with it on the show, but that's an unpopular opinion.
I know. It was just too much. It was too much like CS knee padding going on from him. Like, I get it. These are your former teammates. These are your buddies. You want to see them play well, and it gets you excited to see them play well. But
did he cast the 100 Thieves Team 1 matchup? Is that the one you're talking about potentially?
There's other players. Might actually be the final. I was actually shocked that they had him casting the finals, to be honest with you. But
who would you have rather had?
I don't know. He's kind of a new caster, so to cast a finals.
He's good, though. Him and DDK.
Like I said, it's fine. It's not that I hate him. I would love to see him cast again. Just back away from like the whole. There's other players out there, right? It's not just CS guys. That's all.
This is gonna get clipped, and we're gonna be hated on now.
Yeah, probably. They'll be like, look at this guy. He hates Sean Garris. He says he sucks. It's like, no, I don't think he sucks. I think he's fine. I just made an observation, is all. I made an observation. But no, so on the NA side, I mean, look, there's a lot of storylines to get to, but I think one of the bigger ones that will trickle down to everything is this 100 Thieves run. I mean, so out of left field, so unexpected to everyone. I don't think anyone thought this was going to happen.
Not because we didn't believe in them. It was more so the fact that it's like this roster's only really been together for 2 months, where the rest of these rosters have really been together since beta for the most part, it feels like.
And for even those few months that they've been together, they just haven't shown that
they had like a good win against TSM, and that was really like the only thing they could. They had done okay outside of that. They weren't anything stellar, but they were getting a pass because they were
like
new.
Well, yeah, right, and it's like the only time that you really saw them perform well and consistently was the qualifiers for First Strike. Before that, during like the FaZe Clan Invitational and things like that, they weren't good. And then they kind of took a break from competing a little bit, right? Figuring out roster woes and that. So look, I even said it on the podcast, like I wasn't a complete believer in the roster heading into these finals. And my God, so here's the thing, right? And maybe this is my backup plan to make us not look like idiots. Did we underestimate 100 Thieves or did we overestimate? Did we give too much credit to teams like Sentinels, TSM, and Envy?
No, I think we underestimated 100 Thieves. I think my dream scenario for the finals was 100 Thieves Envy is the dream scenario,
Yeah,
but my
I
heart
think
told
that's what
me
you
it would
said.
be TSM
Yeah.
versus Sentinels, right? And I just think I think we all had a hard time believing that they were going to take Sentinels in a best of 3 and then also be able to follow that up and take 3 games against, whoever the winner was from the other side, because they'd also had a tough time against Envy. That TSM game, um, you didn't know, was it a one-time fluke or would they be able to replicate it? But I just thought that they would. And then on top of that, they had the hardest first round matchup,
Yeah.
right? Like against T1. Now I know T1 hasn't been stellar, but still the hardest first round matchup. TSM against Renegades, okay, kind of an easy pick there. Envy against Immortals, we felt like that was a pretty easy pick. Sentinels FaZe Clan, once again, like we really felt that was a relatively easy pick. So I think that their run was just, we knew how difficult it was going to be, and for them to go through that and come out on top speaks volumes for them. Like it shows the addition of Nitro, Steel, obviously paired with Asuna and Dicey's, not to mention Hiko, but he's kind of the OG. He's been on that team for a while. Like the way these guys have found a way to mesh and have defined roles so quickly is really impressive, because they do have some big voices on that team
Yeah.
too, right? Like Hiko, Steel, and Nitro. Although Nitro you wouldn't think of as like not like a controversial figurehead, he's very experienced, right? And he's going to have his own opinions as somebody that's played at most recently of these 3 at the highest level of anybody in an esport with Liquid and Counter-Strike. And so we just didn't know how that was all going to come together. And it was incredible to see how it has, and I know that starts to put into people's mind of where do they stand? Like where are these guys?
Do you think Nitro just walks into team meetings and just slams down his gold bar for like a paperweight? Just the gold bar that he won from the Intel Grand Slam. Just like, oh, hey guys, don't mind me. Just dropping.
I haven't cashed this yet even. I don't need
dropping
to.
my gold bar. First off, unbelievable good feelings for Hiko.
Yeah.
A guy whose esports career was all but dead.
He became a streamer.
Yeah, all but dead. If it was relying on Counter-Strike, just simple put, it was dead. And then for him to come back to Valorant and win, awesome feeling. Seeing Nitro still short circuits my brain. Like it's just like, I don't know. It's just, I'm so used to seeing Liquid Nitro for so many years. Seeing that is still weird to me. What's also weird is Steel on a premier team winning and then also being like, oh shit, you can actually go someplace from this win. Like this isn't just like some weird one-off beaten DreamHack.
Well, for Steel, this is the first time he's won an event that's tied to the game developer in like 5 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's just
right? Like,
it's crazy to see like, oh, Steel won. What was
like
this?
Steel won the biggest tournament that Valorant has put on to date. And that's really awesome, because we didn't know where a lot of these guys' careers were ultimately going, right? You thought he was always just going to be somebody that's getting paid on a roster to develop young talent, and then they were going to either move on or he was going to have to move on, right?
Yeah.
And so
amazing. It was definitely a feel good win. Like I think regardless if you're a fan of 100 Thieves, I don't see how you can look at that 100 Thieves roster and not like them.
Yeah, and Hiko's like one of us, dude. He's a boomer,
Yeah,
you know,
and
and
from
it's
Michigan.
he's 30. He's
I
quote unquote washed up from his other esport, and
I ate dinner with Hiko one time, so I
where were y'all?
feel like we're best friends at the hotel at the MLG major. It was when,
Did y'all eat together, or were you in the same venue?
well, Anuj, memory's fuzzy. Um, I was at the same table. I don't know
Was
if
it a
he knew
family
I
style
was
table?
there, but we were at the same table.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah, no, it was definitely a feel good win for 100 Thieves. It was cool seeing like Nadeshot. Oh my god, did you see Nadeshot's tweet about the finals though?
Which one?
So like
Yeah, like a
during
lot
the
of them.
finals, he had to rush his dog to the hospital.
Oh yeah.
And then his girlfriend's car got broken into, I think.
Smashed, he said, or something like
Smashed
that. So I don't know
into.
what that
Yeah, I
means.
didn't know. Yeah, I thought he meant broken into. Maybe he meant hit. I don't know. Like, as he's like doing this, and then they have the video of like the winning moment. It was just a feel good. Although, again, maybe an unpopular opinion. Okay, I just want to preface unpopular opinion. I'm just stating how I feel here. Courage. I don't find anything he does authentic.
He's a YouTube personality.
All
for
the
sure.
time, though.
He was animated prior to being as big as he is now. He's just like overly animated
Like,
now. Like it's
all
up a
the
whole
time.
notch. Yeah, I feel that. But like he's not appealing to you and me.
No.
He's
Hiko
not,
is. Hiko's reaction is like right up, and we're like, oh, hell yeah. Good job, guys. Courage.
Hiko, I'm super happy for,
Yeah.
man. Like, I mean, it's not even that he just won, you know, it was,
Don't say it.
he was like
Don't say it.
it's not like he just won not because he just won a
Don't say the
major,
M
Tim.
word.
It's not because he just won the first Valorant major for NA during COVID.
I hate you.
Which that's what this is. But he did it in a way like that he is known for, right? Like Hiko is the clutch master to a lot of NACS fans, and his number of clutches in this event, his overall rating, like he was the MVP for the tournament. You know, I think he was one of the highest rated players. Just so consistent, and he was so valuable to that roster. He's the captain of that team. There's pressure on him to win. He's the boomer of the group. Like so many reasons to want to root for this dude. And you're right. Like to see him lift a major, and along with Steele, who would never get the opportunity to win a major, and Liquid Nitro, who has never won a major. Like all of these guys getting their first
And they
major.
still have never won a major. Never won a major. Maybe
it's a
one day.
Valorant
Maybe
major,
one day
Tim.
they'll win a major, but still haven't.
At least they all finally got one under their belt.
Still have not won a major. I'll bring up this major thing in a second. Let me ask you this, because I think that they definitely can be in the discussion. I still think for NA it's too hard. I don't think you can really give a straight answer on this one. But would you say 100 Thieves is top NA right now for Valorant? They went in, they beat TSM twice in this event, right? They knocked them out, or they in the first qualifiers beat them, and then here they beat Sentinels in the finals. Envy, I think, like you mentioned, they have struggled in the past, but obviously beat TSM, who beat Envy.
Well, Envy's been on fire as of their last like 4 tournaments, right? Like
right.
they have struggled against certain teams quite a bit. But overall, they've been at top. Like, yeah, it's really hard for me to sit here and tell you 100 Thieves is the number 1 overall team. They're not going to be that way in the rankings. But I think like if we're just grading this like on a monthly basis, which is really all you can do. Valorant's only been out for like 5-6 months now. Like
that's why I said
yeah,
like it's almost not really fair to answer, because you could almost put like 4 teams up at the number 1 at the moment, and then it's like, hey, any of these teams could win any tournament.
Yeah, like I think if I'm rating them today just from where we're at, and if we had to put a value on this tournament because it's like, a major level event compared to everything else that's been underneath it. Yeah, like I would say 100 Thieves maybe would like slightly be ahead of everybody at the moment just because they did win this event. But it's a 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D type situation.
Right.
Like Envy, TSM, Sentinels, all three of them could argue for being the number one team right
Right.
now.
And that's exactly how I feel too. It's like you definitely have a 1A through D situation.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's good, right? Like I was saying, I think that's awesome. The more teams that you have when you're going into an event, like I guess it's always nice to have that one with the target on their back, which I still think is Sentinels just because of who they are. I definitely think any of them though, Sentinels, TSM, Envy, and 100 Thieves has a chance to win any
And
event at this moment.
and then remember, there's still teams out there like a Cloud9, Gen G, and Box who probably had the ability to compete with any of these guys on any given day. So, Valorant on the NA side is polar opposite of CS on the NA side. Polar opposite. It's so deep. There are so many teams that can really beat anybody. It's crazy. So this is what I would love to see happen in CS, right? Where you have like 10 teams and you're so questionable you can't even pick a number one team. Um, Unfortunately, we're not there right now, but Valorant definitely is. Like it's a NA is incredibly deep, and you really felt like anybody had the ability to win. In this bracket, where in EU, it's a shocker that one of the three core did not win.
And I want to address this because I know you're trying to pull me off sides, but you're not.
You have a major issue with this?
This is not a major. I saw like 100 Thieves or Nade Shot was like incredible. We won the first Valorant major. Some players were saying, man, it feels good to win the first major. Oh, it feels good to be a part of the first major. This was not a major. I don't care what anyone says. They're all
Because it's not international. Is that your reasoning?
They're all wrong. It's a major tournament. It's a major event. It's a major scale of a tournament. It is not a major. A major, you have the best team coming out of it. And you don't know who the best team is if it's not international.
Your logic is flawed, though, because we're in a COVID situation. So that's like...
So this is the year with no majors. You don't lower the standards because of COVID. You don't say, well, I guess in the Super Bowl, we can't have all these teams traveling, so let's just have East and West, and then we'll have 2 Super Bowl winners because COVID. Like, if Counter-Strike had majors and it was all split up, and you had an NA major with the same 8 teams that just played for DreamHack, you would not consider that a major, regardless of what the title said.
If Counter-Strike said we're doing a major and we're holding it in EU and only 2 NA teams fly out there, that's still the major.
Well, that's because that's all NA has.
Well, but really they can have maybe like 3, let's say Evil Geniuses decided to back out like they did out of this last event.
I would still say that is better than what this is, which is just a completely segregated tournament. It's still a major tournament, but it's not what I would call a major.
Yeah, like, so yeah, I would just see it different. Like in as a 2020, it's a 2020 major. It's just the year of 2020.
If you want to say major with an asterisk saying COVID, sure, I'll give you that. But it's definitely like, I don't want them, for example, like I think it was like last week was like the anniversary of the first Counter-Strike major ever that Fnatic won, right? I don't need this coming up every year as, man, it's the year anniversary of winning the first major ever. I don't need a banner going up in the 100 Thieves compound saying first major champions. That's like,
see, I would for 100%. If I'm 100 Thieves, I'm lifting that shit into the rafters.
That's like the Lions still congratulating themselves.
It's going to say the word NA on there. It's not going to say
So if you want to say NA, sure. It's
like
an
you're
NA
the first
major.
NA. You're the first North American major champion winner.
North American champion winner.
Yeah,
we can agree on that. But
I think that they're all saying that too. None of them are
major.
saying like we are now the number one team in the world. Like they're all saying it regionally.
So
even the players, like they're bickering amongst themselves in that sense. But like,
right.
I think everybody understands like this is what it is this year. Like these are the majors. This is how it plays out. Well, it kind of worked out pretty cool because I don't know if we would have had 128 teams from like every region competing.
I mean, look, I think this is the first strike or whatever they want to call it. I don't know if it's just called first strike for the sake of being the first major tournament for them, but they should do first strike every year. Every year, and, you know, tweak the format a little bit, but leave it the same
Open feel to it.
openness
Yeah.
to it. Like, I don't want 100 Thieves getting any pass because it's like, oh, well, you're the last winner, so you can automatically qualify. No. I don't want any of that. I want...
Yeah, do the same thing you did now and just take all these winners from each region and throw them into a land at the end of it and like have it be settled that way, right? So now all the
Right.
winners from every region go play in a 16
And
playoff
then
or
there
whatever
you
it
can
is.
call it like, okay, now this is the international or whatever you...
Yeah, or like top 2
Worlds-
from each region all get to go to a
Worlds tournament.
world tournament or
Yeah,
whatever.
I
you know?
like that. That will captivate. I mean, because even now you're looking at like the audience level, and I think I saw it was like peaked at like 300,000, and then like the average was like 98,000, and of course you have to like piece all the streams together because there was like 1 million streams with it on. So you
Yeah,
have
like
to,
Myth had his own stream going on that was huge and things like
Ninja
that.
had it. You had like the official Valorant and the Riot. There was 1 million streams you could have watched this thing on. So, but for the most
Don't
part,
worry, they'll take all that control back soon, guys.
I know.
Don't worry.
People are like,
enjoy
oh,
it this year.
people are like, oh, this is awesome. That
Just like this was an unusual year for a major, this is an unusual year for Riot streaming rights.
being
So
cool.
just give them a moment.
It's an unusual
Yeah.
year when Riot's being cool.
Like Nerd Street, UMG, like hopefully all of y'all have enjoyed this.
Thanks for
There will
keeping
be-
the seat
There will
warm.
be a time when this is back in house.
Thanks for keeping the seat warm. We'll
Yeah.
we'll be right back. So I love it though. I thought this was perfect. I don't know if they would have done this without COVID in the nicest way possible. Like, COVID might have been the best thing to start up Valorant esports. Get rid of all the deaths and the sickness of it, but just the fact that you couldn't travel, you couldn't have LANs, kind of forced their hand to allowing it to be anyone and everyone can play.
They had to be creative with how to make the event appealing, and they did it so much so that I hope, yeah, you're right. I hope they find a way to carry this over as a yearly event, and then maybe even, like I said, take it to the next step and bring all the regions together in some sort of ultimate showdown type thing.
Yeah, I would love it. Love it. And again, I don't want any special treatment. Don't let
And
100
before
Thieves.
we wrap up, like, I just want to say, like, this was awesome, dude. Like, what a coming out party for Valorant. I know we've kind of been hype about it for a little while now, but I really enjoyed the games. And that's like the most important part because we didn't have a lot of the hoopla, right? For major events in that sense. We didn't have all this stuff going on. There wasn't a crazy stadium
Well,
with
nothing was, yeah.
15,000 fans yelling in it, but it was like it was super entertaining, and I was like very much like tuned in to these games. And I know you and I were texting back and forth during all of these matchups, and it was just they did a really good job. I think Valorant year one is like been a super crazy success, and
I
I'm
mean, not even year
really
one.
ecstatic to see where it goes in year two.
Valorant first 6 months. I mean, it hasn't even
Yeah.
been a year. It's been
Yeah.
6 months. So it's I agree. I loved it. I think if you want to have this be a yearly kickoff or the way to wrap up the year, I would love it. And then in the meantime, we have next year with their new format and things like that coming out. So hopefully, again, I guess that's all COVID bearing, but hopefully that happens.
By the time we're at LAN, we probably have 2 more maps in play, probably have 2 or 3 more characters in the game, and these map pools will start getting deeper, which will be more fun. Character progression and like just the way people use these guys will be more advanced. So it's all like this, the game's only going to get better. There's a lot of room to grow, and I think they recognize that too. So a lot to be happy for with where this game is headed right now.
Also, the new UI was pretty awesome. Made it 1,000. Like, anything that I hated about watching Valorant, I feel like was solved. It wasn't perfect. Like, there was some delay in the UI, but other than that, I thought it was great.
Way better.
Yeah.
Like way better.
Yeah. Like to see some
Again,
KD ratios on there, but
freaking copied Counter-Strike on everything else. Take the good shit from
right.
Spectator. Like,
Don't
do it. And
don't be proud. Don't get too proudful now, right? Don't let pride get in your way.
yeah,
Steal
like don't stop there. Like you've already gone this far. You've already killed NACS. Like finish them off now. Put your foot on the throat and keep going. And they did a good job of that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. Can't wait to have this on land. Like I will definitely go to the first one in our area. Maybe we can even travel to the first big tournament here in the States. But overall, I thought it was great. I know we have some 100 Thieves fans in our Discord that were super excited about it. I owned up to it because in the chat I was like, I really don't see 100. I think 100 Thieves got lucky up to the finals, and you know what? I was definitely wrong. So looking forward to it to see how they kind of carry that over, because right now I don't think there's really anything on the horizon when it comes to tournaments.
No, now for Valorant, it's quiet time.
Yeah, I mean, you have some like smaller tournaments on the schedule, some December monthlies from Nerd Street and everything like that, but for Valorant and Counter-Strike,
major the rest of the year.
Yeah. Just looking here, Pittsburgh Knights have something going on. For the most part, though, esports in general is slowing down. Counter-Strike is going on their player break here soon. Looks like Valorant's taking a break. So we've hit the holiday stride when it comes to esports. But either way, First Strike, huge success. Congratulations to everyone over at Riot to put it on. All of our friends and buddies who were involved. Really a super duper job, everyone.
Yeah, for sure. It was great.
Let's get into some e-news to wrap up the show. For CS, G2 announced that they are benching Jax and keeping Amanek.
Yep. That's probably a good move. Like it just, they looked more fluid with him in the lineup, and we knew this was a trial season for both of them, and now Jax is available for purchase for the highest bidder, it looks like.
The last real big tournament of the year for CS will be the Blast Pro Premier Fall Finals, kicking off on the 8th. So literally tomorrow as you are listening to this.
And this gives you that matchup you were, just talking about. Astralis is obviously in this event, Vitality in this event. We do have Na'Vi. The December Bombers and Mouse Sports are there. G2, like this is a very, very stacked and loaded event. So the only NA team representing, I believe, is Furia.
Man, I want Mouse Sports to win so bad.
No, that'd be great. I would love for them to come into the year
December
ranked
Mouse
just to fall
Sports
10 spots.
Yes, I want December Mouse Sports to. They got second place. Let's finish it off. It's December, boys. Let's go. And now this qualifies for. This isn't even like the big finals. The global finals is in January, and I believe that's LAN. This is online still. As of now, the plan for their global finals is to be a LAN. But I'm not 100% sure. So don't quote me on that, but I think it is. In other news here, we got Call of Duty Florida Mutineers signed Slacked for complete their 2021 roster.
Yeah, to complete the roster there. That's a good pickup. Slacked is obviously a longtime veteran of the scene, had a tough go in Seattle last year, and this is a good pickup to round out that roster, a good veteran ad. And
man, I know this affects a lot of you out there, but the COD Mobile cancels their World Championship due to COVID. The remaining prize pool will be split among the winning teams from each region that qualified. I guess that's what you do. I don't hate the way, hey guys, sorry we have to cancel the tournament, but we're just going to split the money with everyone. You'll all get the same, and we'll see you next time.
Really good for the lowest seeded team in that event. So.
Yeah, they're probably like, thank God. Thank you so much. So there you go. No COD Mobile World Championship. Battle Royale Fortnite World Cup will also not return for 2021 over safety concerns. This was canceled much earlier, right? They canceled 2020, now 2021. meaning for the last 2 years there's been no World Cup, meaning we only have one World Cup. This was supposed to be like the pinnacle esports event of the year, and now it's been canceled twice and only happened once. Don't know if the lasting impact of the Fortnite World Cup is really going to make it stay in the history books as we once thought, but still sucks to see. I mean, it sucks for Booga, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, this is all they have, so...
Right, like...
Oh, this is it. Okay, you canceled your only event for the year, so okay, we'll talk about Fortnite in 2022 if it's still around.
But Anuj, Booga was the Player of the Year nominee at the Esports Awards, so clearly Fortnite is doing something for him to get nominated at like the industry's most exclusive award ceremony in the world. I mean, come on.
You know what, Tim? I'm sure they got some retweets off of it. It was probably not the worst nomination.
Probably worth it. Probably worth it. Man, imagine making nominees just for retweets. In other Fortnite news here, we do shit on Fortnite a lot because it's definitely not an esport, but I will give GG's out to the creator of Fortnite as he is planning on buying thousands of acres of forest that were planned to be cut down.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's
Very
pretty
cool
awesome.
move.
Pretty awesome. A lot of jokes about how he's going to turn that into a real-life battle royale with children. Thought that was very funny. But no, I think that's very cool. As someone who I get very old man, like get off my porch type old man when I see new things being put in and cutting down trees. Drives my wife nuts because as we're driving, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess we really need another shopping center as the one next to it is completely empty with closed down businesses. It's like, oh, you know what we needed? Another church.
Another one of them, actually.
Yeah, we needed another church here. Thank you. Oh, more apartments? Oh, I would have hated having a park here. Thank you. Thank you. So very cool on his part. And that will do it. Little e-news for you. We will be back, what is today? Monday. So we'll be back Wednesday, not screwing up the rest of our schedule. We'll get back on track on Wednesday. Talk some esports. Blast Premier Fall Finals would have kicked off by then, so we would have been able to talk some of that probably, and whatever else is going to happen in the world of esports. Raids, Mythics open up on WoW this week. If you are Horde, hit us up. We got a group that does it. We can run them over the weekend, whatever. Hit us up.
A lot of fun stuff for WoW coming out tomorrow, so that'll be good.
Yep. Busy time. I got some catching up to do tonight after the show. Everyone else who listened, whether you skipped around or listened to the whole thing, love you all the same. And for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see you Wednesday night live on our Twitch and YouTube, or Thursday on the podcast. Love you. Bye.